Hello everybody, my name is Tiffany, I'm the Tipsy artist, and we are doing our beautiful Buddha. It's like a statue in a garden full of peaceful flowers, so it's Buddha flowers of peace. And so this is going to be very lovely, very peaceful, very tranquil, and we have so many fun techniques to go over. So the first thing I want to do though is talk about all of our wonderful supplies. So we make this super fun and easy by giving you little templates. So we've got all kinds of flowers here. See, super easy. And then the butterfly, and then this main shape here as well. And then of course, what you get in the mail if you order the whole kit, if you need it, we have, I want to drop it, there it is. Ah, I did it, brushes, paint, canvas, yay. All right, now I'm gonna put this back over to the side. Okay, so I've got my supplies all laid out in front of me, and I have a lovely bucket of water, and then I've got my 3 brushes out, and then I've got a little rag out, and I do have a little bit of paint started here off to the side. I've already been painting, so I've got a little bit of work done already, so I've got little paint plates started. So, okay, so what we're going to do is, let me talk about this trace a little bit here too. So I took all of my designs that I have, and then what I do first is I do it with pencil first, so that I've got lines everywhere, and you'll see how some of this will come out into the foreground and then some will be pushed behind. So once I make that decision, it's real easy to go back and erase with pencil. So like I've got my butterfly that's going to pop out here in front, and then I've got certain elements that will come behind other elements. So then I'll erase those lines. Once I've got that all firmed up, then I like to go ahead and do Sharpie to go ahead and fill it all in. That way I can just lightly paint over all of the top, and then just kind of, that way I don't lose all that line work and tracing work that I did. So that is definitely one approach. Another approach that's super easy is just to paint one solid color over the entire background. Very fun and easy that way too. Then take all your tracing elements, place them on top, and trace around them. So that's another really easy way to do it. So both ways work just as well. So either way. All right, to get started, I need a little bit of paint here. I am definitely going to be using some of this white. And then I also want to use some primary yellow. I'll push this off to the side a little bit. I'm going to be making a really light cream color. So that will be my first step. So I'll have a little bit of this primary yellow, some of that white, and then just a teeny tiny amount of black. And I'm going to be starting with my mama brush. Now I do have some black already out, but I'm going to start by picking up a nice big dollop of the white, just right there. And then I want like a pea-sized amount of that primary yellow. And then I'm just going to barely touch into my black. So I'll take my mama brush here and just barely touch into the black, teeny tiny amount. And actually, I already can tell I want one more big dollop of white. So I'm gonna mix all that together. It takes a lot of white on this. So see, this makes a really light, beautiful, kind of a taupe color. So very light and pretty. And then I also wanna make sure that I've got just a little bit of pure white off to the side. And then I've got this taupe mixed up. So again, this will be, I used 2 big dollops of white, and then like a little pea-sized amount of that primary yellow, and then I just barely touched into the black, and then that's how I arrived at this beautiful light color here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to be placing this into my beautiful background, and I can be a little bit sloppy with it as I come in and around all these little shapes. And I do little cross strokes, and here's why I know that the Sharpie will just bleed right through that paint. So I just kind of crisscross it over and over again, so this gives me a nice little balance here in the background. So again, really nice taupe color here. Crisscross, just back and forth. And this is a very therapeutic process too, because you can be very free with it. And this has really good coverage since it has so much white in it, so I can actually just hold the brush you know, more like you just hold a pencil, and I'll just crisscross it back and forth. And I do want to make sure I've got good coverage around all the elements, because again, all of my line work will just bleed right through the paint, so it just eliminates a step and just makes it really easy for me. And some of these I already know they're going to be really light, so for example on some of these flowers, I'll just go ahead and crisscross right through them. I'll go ahead and just do a little layer of paint here. I'm also going to touch into just a little bit of white, just push this back and forth. If you are having some transparency, then I would recommend you turn that handle a little bit more over to the side and just crisscross back and forth. But just lots of little crisscrosses here. This is one of those paintings that actually feels really good to do it, because you can just really have a lot of liberal free movement in the beginning, so that's very helpful. Alright, so I've got a little bit more to do down here. A lot of elements are in this painting. And I want to make sure I get all of that background space. Can we purchase just the templates? Yes, you can. You absolutely can. That's a great question. And just to be honest, I definitely have all my kits uploaded, but sometimes I'm a little bit behind when it comes to just uploading the actual just template. But I have a form on my website, tipsyartist.com, at the top of the page, and it says, if you do not see the template that you want, just send me an email and then I'll get it loaded that day. So sometimes I don't realize that I haven't uploaded the template in addition to the kit. This is a really fun template kit too. It's really neat. We definitely have those available. Since you just asked me, I'll try to actually remember today. Hello, hello. Oh, thank you so much. All right, so we have a lot of our background done. I'm gonna go ahead and paint right through this butterfly too, because I think that will actually be nice later to have that background color in there. And I'll do the same thing here. Again, that Sharpie just bleeds right through, so that's going to be very nice. It'll come right through those little armholes right there, and this flower will actually be pretty light, so I'm going to go ahead and push all the color right through here too. See, very fun and easy first step there. Just lots of little crisscrosses. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and start to position in some of this really fun color for the roses. And so we've got some of this really pretty light pink that we'll start with. All right, so what I need to do is I need to go ahead and grab some of my primary magenta. We'll start with some of that. Got a little bit already here, but I'm gonna add a little bit more. And then I want some cadmium red. Really pretty nice warm red here. And then I've also got some white nearby too. Or I did. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to mix up a little bit of white with a little bit of this primary magenta. So I'll just touch into that magenta, and then I'll touch into a little bit of white. Just equal parts to begin with. And then I'll go ahead and push into this shape. So making the rose shape now. Now to begin with, roses can be just big, lumpy circles. So very free and fun on this. Again, pushing into a little bit of that magenta and a little bit of white, back and forth between those two. So it just looks like a big mass of color to begin with. And then this one back here is just about the same color. I will add, just to be a little bit different and get some more of that fun coral color coming in, I'll add a touch of this cadmium red and maybe even a touch of orange too. So then I'll push that into the mix. So just getting my background done. So this is one more little rose, just kind of playing peekaboo right here behind this big rose. And add a little bit more of that magenta to the mix. Beautiful. Okay, so now I need to go ahead and start doing some of that really fun, beautiful layering over the top. So I need my little bit brush. This is the smallest brush in the kit here. And I'm going to start with some white. All right, so I take that brush and I just go ahead and push into the pure white. Just like that. And then I want to go ahead and use a light hand and make what kind of looks like the shape of a parentheses. But I do a nice little light drag with this and take it all the way around. So hold the brush more parallel to the canvas, and a little bit of that light white that just comes in and around, and I'll just lightly pull the brush along, kind of lightly drag it across the surface. So, and because that pink is still a little bit wet behind it, you get a nice soft blend between those two for this preliminary stage here of working these two together. But the basic shape on this pattern, again, just kind of feels like you're making like a little parentheses, that soft curve, and you just keep working it around in a circular pattern all the way around. Oh, my daughter's here today. Hi, London. It says I can bring you on camera. Could I do that? Would you be willing to do that? You'd be my very first test to do this. I feel like I could maybe do it with my own daughter. I don't feel comfortable doing it with other people because they may not be ready for it and they might freak out. So let me know. I'm not sure. All right, so we've got our white coming on first. Then we want to go ahead and do a little bit of that darker shade next. So now I want to take a little bit brush again. I'm actually going to just rinse it off just a little bit and then dry it off completely. And then I'll go ahead and push into a little bit of this primary magenta. And I'll do a little push right there in the center, so it's just like a little tiny circle. So it kind of looks like I make a little comma, and then I just lift off with a light hand. And then I just lightly push this around, little half circles here. Repetition of the same stroke that we just did. Little half circles. And I take this all the way around. It's so funny, every time I ask somebody, hey, can I bring you on camera? They'd never say anything back. We'll see what happens. I feel like the typical response is, don't think so. But we'll see if she's up for it. All right, so beautiful magenta, and if you want to have a little bit more fun, add some different hues of color in here, then I can go ahead and push into a little bit of this orange. And that makes for a really fun little hint of coral happening there. And you'll get a nice little soft blend with your orange and your white. Kind of take that all the way around. Continue with those, little parentheses, shapes, little half circles that come all the way around. Hi, Lo. And then if you want, you can keep working back in a little bit more white too. So sometimes you might discover that you like a little bit more white happening in there too. So this is really fun. You can keep kind of mixing it up, seeing how the colors collaborate together. Good morning. Yeah, that's right. It is a wonderful day. So when the roses get really big like this too, it's really kind of fun because you can get a lot more room to just kind of really play into the surface area. All right, so we've got this one back here. So same thing, repetition with this. Oh, I'm out of magenta. I'm out. I gotta get more. That's one of my favorite colors on here. So more magenta. I'll get loaded up with that again. All right, and then just kind of touch lightly into it. Go right to the center. Do a little touch like a comma. Lightly lift off with a light hand. And I'll kind of push this around in little half circles. And then I want to come in with a little bit of that white too. So I'm going to twist out some of that paint, some of that excess, and then I'll touch into a little bit of white here. And just do soft little like parentheses, that little shape again. Into that fun little rose shape. And then you can have a little bit more fun too with some different colors, so I'll add like a little touch of that orange again. All right, so beautiful little roses there. Okay, so now we need to do some beautiful little daisies. That'll come next. Lots of white that we'll do with this one. So I want to find, I've got a mama brush over here, and then lots of white. And so I will push into just the pure white paint. And I'll start to get this separation. Now this will start to create contrast between that background. So again, this is just pure white paint here. We've got it all traced out, so it's really easy to see. So we'll start with just pure white paint, and I want to avoid getting into that butterfly now because that butterfly will be some darker shades. So we'll go ahead and avoid the little butterfly there. And just pure white into this whole little daisy here. And there's a bunch of these. Okay, so I've got right up here at the top, again, just more pure white. So we'll just sweep these in a circular pattern into all these little shapes here. and then here, and I've got one more there. So I'm holding the brush a little bit more like a pencil to do all these curves that come around those petals. And then as I fill into each section, then I'll turn the handle a little bit more over to the side, parallel to the canvas, to really fill in and get nice texture in the center. Some more white. All right, great foundation. Now we will work in a little bit of some beautiful primary yellow right in the center of each one of those. And so I have some right here nearby, so I'm going to go ahead and touch into that. Still using that same mama brush. This is a pretty big circle, so I can go ahead and twist into that space. All right, so let me show you how I start. So I've got my little dollop of yellow that I picked up. This is primary yellow, and I just pushed into it. So I have a little dollop there on the side. Then I will hold this brush just like a pencil in the center of the circle, and then I will push, applying firm pressure to one side, and as I do, it spins those bristles out, and then that makes a half circle. So again, start here in the center, push out to one side. As you do that, it kind of fans those bristles out, and then it makes that other side of the half circle. And then you can come back into the center and just take that dollop of paint that's still on the flat side of the brush, and then just lightly fill into the center here. And we'll do that all over. So again, push up to one side. Kind of looks like you make the letter C, but just push around, and then push to this side. And then light little feather out over the top to give it really good coverage. All right, so that's a fun, easy way to make a circle every time. So those are fun. Okay, now we have got, what else? Got centers of those. Trying to think what color I want to make next. Let's go ahead and make, actually I'm going to do a little bit more pink over here, and then I want to make some turquoise, so that'll be really fun. All right, I'm going to put my mama into the water. See, I've got my little bucket here of water. When I don't have time to get to it, I always make sure I put them in the water. That way they do not dry out with paint on them, because acrylic paint sets up and dries very quickly, and it'll make sticks instead of brushes. So just make sure you always put it in the water until you get a chance to completely rinse it out. All right, so I want to make a little pink flower here. And so let's see, let's use my little bit brush, and then let's see. I want to go ahead and add just a teeny amount of water to blend with this. So I'm going to take my little bit and just dip it into the water. I'll do a little tap on the side of the bucket, and then I want to go ahead and push together a little bit of that magenta and then a little bit of that cadmium red right there. Both of those two together, and then I'll go ahead and push into this shape here. All right, and then while that is still wet, I want to go ahead and dip into just a teeny amount of white, and I'll do tiny little lines right through it. And the line stroke looks like you make a little parentheses. So I'll start at the top, come all the way down to the bottom, and I get a nice soft blend between those two colors. All right, so that's really pretty, very happy with that. The other type of flower that I can add throughout here too, which is really pretty, I can let the brush actually do the work for me. So I kind of do a little twist into that paint, And thank you, I see little love hearts going up into the sky. That's awesome. So I'm going to take this same brush and I'm going to go ahead and just press right there on top of the canvas. And when I do that, it makes a really fun petal shape. So that's also something really pretty that you can kind of sprinkle around into your background here. So I'll take that all the way around. See how pretty that is? And it's just by pressing on the side. More people to say hi to. Okay, let's see who I can see. Hi, Kathy, Megan, Lo. And then before, by memory, let's see, there was London, Donna. And then that's all I can see. But hello, everybody. All right, so let's see. We have a few more little hot pink flowers to do here. And you know, just for fun, I'm going to touch into a little bit of some yellow. Let's really brighten that up a little bit. And then I'll go ahead and paint into just a teeny tiny touch of water to that to make it a little bit more fluid. I'll start to paint into this little flower here too. And I can also add just a teeny amount of white to that, just do a soft blend as I go. Just doing little tiny short strokes here, alternating between some of that magenta, cadmium red, and a little bit of white, and a little bit of orange. So the strokes look like just tiny little parentheses, super tiny. So that's just another fun little floral that you can do there. And then this little flower down here, I'm going to go ahead and pop in with a little bit more bright, vibrant color on that one. So I've got my bright primary yellow, and I still have my brush loaded up with that magenta from before. So I'm going to push those two together. I'm going to touch into a little bit of white there too. And then I'll push into this shape. Let it peek through with a bit more color here in the background. And you can see how the magenta is still kind of flowing into this. So I'm going back and forth between that magenta and a little bit of that yellow. And I'm really liking how they just alternate back and forth. So you can just have fun with that and kind of push into both shades. And then apply that to the surface of your canvas. It's really pretty to watch them mix together right there on the canvas. And then a little bit of white too adds a nice little touch. All right, very pretty. Now I need to come back in and do that little circle at the bottom. So, and I might want to do a different color, so that would be pretty. So I'm going to do a dark color this time. So I'll use my mama brush and a little bit of that magenta. Press into it, so I've got it loaded up there. And then I'll place it right in the center of that circle that I see peeking through, right in the middle of the circle. And I'll push to one side. That'll make one half circle on one side. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. And then I'll take my brush and kind of lightly feather it out over the top. Very pretty. All right, sweet, sweet. Okay, so now we need to do a little bit of that turquoise that we have working in the background. All right, so beautiful turquoise. I've got this from yesterday, but I'm going to continue to add to it. It's actually almost all dry, but so my favorites for turquoise, I have some Viridian. I'll show you what that looks like. So it kind of reminds me of a teal. It's very pretty. One of my favorites. And then I will also get some primary cyan blue going. So a little dollop of that. And then I want to make sure I've got it nearby. I always like to kind of just touch into different shades here. So I'm going to add some bright yellow green. Have that going. And then some cadmium green. We have a lot of fun stuff to mix in with here. It's brand new. Hold on. Put that there? Okay. All right, so now we've got all kinds of fun stuff to play with. And I want mama. All right, so I'm gonna grab another mama here. And I'll just start by pushing into, I've got a lot of white off here to the side. So I'll push into a little bit of this Viridian, just using the tip of the brush and some firm pressure. About that much on the brush so far. And then I'll grab a little bit of white and push that into it. And then let's add just a teeny amount of blue. So I just barely touch into the blue. So you can see how it's a lot less of the blue. I'll push that into the mix. And that'll pull it to a really pretty turquoise color. I'm adding more white. I'm going to keep that real light. And if it becomes a little bit too light blue, then I just touch into a little bit more of that Viridian, and that will pull it right back to more of that turquoise color that I'm wanting. All right, so some of the shades I have working in here, I know I've got this really pretty leaf happening, so I'll use the edge side of the brush. So I just hold the brush just like a pencil, let that line edge come towards the canvas. Now my brush did get really full and fat with paint, so it kind of spread out on the end. I had a hard time making a really fine tapered line down here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that same brush, apply some really firm pressure, kind of press out that paint a little bit. Check my edge here. Nice and thin again. Way to go. All right, and then I will go ahead and push back into the center of the really pretty leaf. All right, and then I've got a few places right in through here where I've got my turquoise in the background, just little sections of color that will pop out. This is definitely kind of an unusual painting for me. I don't know. I got a request and I said, yes, I'll do that, because I've painted about 1 million barns and pickups and I need something a little different. So we did a beautiful statue in a garden, but it had some abstract elements to it as well. So we've got some just like strips of color coming through here. So I do a lot of this. I build my designs. I work differently, but I've always been a big fan of collage. I used to have a collage line. So I kind of went back to that feeling to do this, to create this. And so I ended up putting a lot of elements together, and I took little scraps of paper to make the turquoise elements first, and then I just did a painting representation of that. So it's weird sometimes how people work, but I'm going to lighten up as I get closer to this shape here. add a little bit more white. And that's getting super 290 in there, so I'm going to go ahead and take my little bit brush, do a quick little twist here into the paint so that I can really get into that small space. And then I want to just kind of lightly feather this out a little bit. So a little bit more white now as I start to lightly fade out from that turquoise and have that blend into that soft kind of taupe that we created in the background. I sprinkle it around this little flower. And then as I come up and around this shape here, I'll work into a little bit more of that light white, so it kind of turns it into like a more of a seafoam color. Now work around those petals. And then as I start to get into the rest of the background, I want to lightly kind of softly feather this out into the background. So I'll continue on with more white and a little bit of this crosshatch going back and forth. My mom in the water there. And I also want to find that taupe that I had in the very beginning. Hi, Cindy. So I've got that taupe that I mixed up, and I want to mix back and forth between this seafoam color and that taupe. So I'll work back into the taupe and just crisscross that back and forth so that I create a nice soft fade between those two colors coming together. So this stroke kind of looks like I make little tiny X's over and over again. And that'll create a nice soft fade between the two. All right, really fun, nice blend. See how it kind of softly fades between that turquoise and that taupe that we had mixed up in the beginning. And I might splash a few little elements of that taupe just kind of randomly in here too. And if it becomes a little bit too contrasty over the top, you can always work back into your turquoise that you still have mixed up and kind of softly crisscross that back and forth too to get a nice soft fade between those two colors working. All right, now on this section in here, we've got some of that turquoise coming into the center again. So I'm going to take Mama again, some of that turquoise, and I'm going to make another little circle right here. So I just kind of push out to one side, kind of looks like I make the letter C, then place it in the center, push out to the other side, and then I'll just kind of lightly feather that in. Same thing down here. And then lightly feather that out. And they don't have to be perfect. This is just kind of a fun, abstract shape. And we're about to continue to play with it more and more to get it a little bit more textural. So just get a light reference there. These are not supposed to be perfect circles. All right, so I'm going to come in with a little bit more white and my little buddy brush. And I'll go ahead and just kind of sweep this around that shape. I'll get a nice soft fade between the two. And then lightly kind of cross-hatch some of that out. And then same thing here, little rings of white. There's still a nice soft fade between the two colors because our turquoise was still wet. And then just kind of crisscross this out. A little bit of soft blend right there in the center. Then we're gonna have fun with a little bit of some red too. So I'm going to take a little bit brush, a little bit, and then we'll do a little mix. Actually, I need just a little bit of water to mix with my magenta and my cadmium red here. Mix those two together. That'll cool off that red quite a bit. Hi, Kayla May. I haven't seen you in forever. Welcome, welcome. Aw, thank you. I know it. We used to see you all the time at Boomerang, and now you're in the car biz. You miss Joe's sass. He's still sassy. He's still as sassy as he's ever been. All right, so I'm going to spin that brush into that paint. And again, I mixed primary magenta and cadmium red, so that gave me more of a cool red. And then I'm going to do a little sweeping sketch of a circle all the way around here, and it's okay if this dry brushes a little bit. That's actually kind of part of the desired intent there. So I'll take this one around too. Just a light little sketch of this red around that. And you can kind of keep sketching this out a little bit too. I like to go round and round and round. You get a little bit of a dry brush effect, which is great. That's actually what I want. Spin that round and round and round. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff with abstract painting. So it's just kind of fun and loose and very different techniques that you can start to play with. All right, let's see. Let's start to do a little bit more of the turquoise and stuff that happens here with all of our pretty little leaves and everything. Got a lot more of that to work in here. So our little bit brush, and then we'll work in with this cadmium green. Whoa, what was that? Oh, I know. Silk. I put some Dupioni silk on my table. It's not practical, but I just wanted to see beautiful, bright, shiny color on my paint table, but now I'm picking up silk threads. It drives Joe crazy too. He doesn't like it at all. But I think maybe that's something else. I think it's funny. So, all right, so I have my cadmium green. I've got a little bit of this viridian. And I'll mix those two together. And this is really pretty too. This little bit of that bright yellow green. And still using my little bit brush. And I'll go ahead and push into these little leaf shapes here. And I don't know if y'all are hearing little dings up there, but I turned off my phone where do not disturb no one. And my phone is ignoring me. I'm probably gonna have to do a reset. So I think y'all are getting dings of my phone while I'm recording. Isn't that lovely? Thanks, iPhone. All right, so we'll make a nice little line all the way up. And so a fun way to make very childlike leaves is just come out and make what looks like a little parentheses, and then another parentheses, and then you can just fill that in. And if I want to add a little bit of a darkness around the edge on these two, I can add a little bit of that cyan blue, so I'll pull a little bit of that in here as well. And that makes for a nice little touch too. While the paint's still wet, you get a nice soft blend in between the two of those. Let's do that again here. I'm really liking the way that looks. So again, I'll start with the lighter greens, bright yellow green with that cadmium. Let's do another little spin with my brush. I'm going to spin into that paint, that loads it up, but also twist it into a fine point. And then I'll go ahead and use that to push into the leaf shape. Then I'll just barely touch into the blue and do a nice little line edge around that. I can add a little bit of white in here too to help lighten up that green a little bit. All right, so again, little parentheses, parentheses, there's that fun little shape again. I've also got my stem that goes all the way down, little line work there. All right, that's a beautiful base. Now we're going to come into that darker cyan blue, little twist into that. And then while the paint is still wet, then I'll just kind of lightly come around the edge here. And you can always push back into that lighter green, push right back into the center to get a softer blend. Beautiful. And I have more of this to do down here too. Now I can warm up this green a little bit to make it a little bit different. Let's add a little bit of this primary yellow to that. Let's warm it up even more, make it a little bit different. So we're doing that real fun little shape again. Just looks like little, go parentheses, parentheses, and then just fill right into the center. And if you have a hard time getting it out to a point, then take that brush and just really kind of twist it in between your fingertips back into that color, and that should rotate it out to a nice fine point. The other thing you can do too is you can add a little touch of water to help make something a bit more fluid to get to tinier points. Just make sure, it's really important for beginners at home, that you go ahead and take it, if you have it on an easel, take it off the easel, turn it flat, and then that way you don't have to worry about any water runs happening on your canvas at all. So that will help you for sure if you're going to add a little bit of water to help your paint be a bit more fluid. All right, now I'm going to push into a little bit of a darker color. Do that little stem that comes up. Take that all the way across. Got some of those happening here too. Also got a few of these happening here. And I need more contrast. I'm up against that turquoise sky, so I'm going to go a lot lighter so that I don't lose the shape of the leaf. So I'm going to push into a lot more of that primary yellow. And push that into that little fun leaf shape so that it definitely stands out a lot more over the top with that turquoise background happening. Let's see. Decisions, decisions. There's lots of fun things I can add in here. All right, so let's see. Maybe a little of that. And then I need to definitely accentuate my little flowers here. So I'm going to mix up some gray. All right, taking my little bit brush, and we're going to add a little bit of white to this black and get some beautiful charcoal gray. And then I'll twist it out to a nice fine point. And I want to make sure and get more. I'm going to grab a lot more white just in case. All right, make that a little bit softer. We're going for a softer heather gray here. Do a little twist into that. And then I'll come out from this center and start to accentuate the fun little lines that come around the petals here. So again, starting from the center, just make little thin lines. And see, even if I picked up a little bit of yellow on there, that actually worked out pretty nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that the way it is. And in just a moment, I'm going to soften this back up with a little bit more white too. So I've got some paper towels nearby. And I'll just do a quick wipe here. So I've got this little bit brush. I'm just going to do a quick wipe on my paper towel. See, I just kind of got rid of that excess dark gray. And I'm going to push into that pure white and then just lightly overlap now. So I still have a little bit of that defining line, but it softened it up quite a bit. So again, push into that white and do just a little bit of that overlap so you get a nice soft blend and that gray line is not so severe, just more of an accent. Definitely helps separate it, but not such a strong, abrupt line happening. And what's cool, like I picked up a little bit of that dark gray on that one, so that's okay. I just went ahead and added a little bit more white. And I can just work right back into it because it's still wet and it plays really well together. As long as it's wet to wet paint, the blending is just still super easy. Alright, so again, just keep pushing in that pure white throughout each petal here. And the other thing you can do too is don't be too timid about coming back into maybe some more of that gray as well. So you can push in a little bit of white, and if you eliminate too much of that light gray that you were liking in the center there, you can always work back in with a little bit more of that gray too. So sometimes it's just a little bit of back and forth. All right, looking good. So these are just really pretty light daisies happening here. Beautiful. All right, so now we're going to come in with more of this dark charcoal here. Start with that around every petal. And I don't mind when the yellow pulls through there. It's actually, it'll just pull to nice little touches of taupe that happen as well. So that's a nice mix that still happens. All right, so I'm gonna wipe off a little bit because I've got a lot of that gray happening on my brush. So I wiped off on the paper towel. Now I'm going to go directly back into just pure white paint again. And then let's start to do that really nice soft blend between the two. And if some of this sets up and dries on you, you can always just kind of re-wet with the dark again. Our gray is still wet, so it still has a nice soft blend with the white that comes in. That's my sweet puppy dog Ira in the background. I keep telling people that one of my dreams is to have her sitting right by me while I work. I mean, she is sitting by me, but I want y'all to see her too. Good morning. Hello, Rhonda. Yeah, Joe hasn't made me the, I wanted him to make a doggy bed right here. Is that crazy? I want one. I think it'd be so much fun. And she's such a good dog too, like she'd be able to handle it. Like she would just be so chill. Very pretty. Now I have more of these to do up here. All right, so let's do more of this lovely gray that comes around the outside. Soft gray. And then I'll definitely softly blend all this in. I lose track of time. Yeah, same, or good afternoon. Hey, you know what's funny is all throughout this class, every single person that's come on, because we started at 12:30, and every single person that came on said good morning. So it's just that kind of a day. I don't know what's happening, but it's definitely that kind of a day. And we were up at 4 a.m. this morning. And you want to say, why were you up at 4 a.m.? It's kind of a weird story. So, okay, before I talk about that weird story, I'm going to go back in with more pure white and just softly blend into all this lovely gray up here. And just pull that in. I'll get a nice soft blend between the two. Still have too much gray, so I need to do a quick wipe again on my paper towel. Push back into the white. All right, so we live, first of all, let me first say that we live downtown, and we have a lot of tenants in our building. So it's not necessarily unusual that we would hear some additional activity or voices or something. And plus we just have stuff happening around us too. Like we have a bar next door. They're really low key. It's like an adult wine bar. It's really, you know, lovely. But still, there could be people talking and all that. So all of a sudden, I felt like I heard someone singing, like right outside our door. Just a quick little tune. But it was a little weird. And then my husband jumps out of bed and he goes, "Was that you?" And I go, "No." And then all of a sudden, we both really became freaked out because he was really hoping it was me. And I think I was just really, I don't know what I was hoping for, but I just kind of knew it wasn't him. But I just wanted to go underneath the covers and not really deal with it. But, so he's like, "Well, I guess I have to get up now and check it out." And I said, "Yeah, because it sounds like we just heard somebody singing right outside our door and it's freaking me out. Now I'm weirded out because it is kind of the middle of the night. It's 4 a.m. Of course, it could be somebody getting ready for the day and singing. So, I don't know. But nobody was there. Not a soul. We don't know what it was. And then my husband had a theory. He had a theory that maybe by chance I was singing in my sleep. And then it woke him up. And then I didn't think it was me because it was a dream. So, I don't know. And I said, do I do that? Do I sing in my sleep? So, I don't know. And he was like, well, not usually, but you have been known to talk or chat it up a little bit. And I was like, oh my goodness, well, I don't know. So there's a weird story for you. But then we were up and we had coffee and it was crazy. All right, so that's looking lovely, and there's a weird morning story for you about sleeping or singing in your sleep. All right, now I'm going to go back in with that gray, add a little bit more touch of that black, and quick little twist, get nice fine lines around all these little shapes here. Take it all the way around. So again, this looks a little weird at first, but once you start to position that white back into it, it'll really look dynamite. And I still have more detail that I have to work around the inner part of that circle. So we're not done there either, because this is still a little rough and raw, but we're going to work on that here in just a moment. All right, so I've got too much gray on my brush. Quick little wipe again. Let's go back into that pure white and then do a nice soft blend between those two. And then as you work too, if you do notice that the gray is becoming a little bit too powerful, you can always do a quick little wipe off on your plate and then go right back into that pure white to keep it really nice and light. Lots of white. It's like making little tiny loops and then feathering it out with a light hand right over the top. So you definitely go over the gray just a little bit, get a soft blend between the two, and then nice soft blend over the top. And see, this looks like it's set up and dried on me just a little bit, so I'm going to re-wet with more charcoal. See, and then I can push back into a little bit more white and get that nice soft blend again between the two. So you can always re-wet that charcoal a little bit as well. All right, so now I need to do a little bit of soft blend around the inner circle there that connects it all the way around. So I want, what do I want here? Let's see. I need to mix up a little bit. So I'm going to go with a little bit of this cadmium yellow, a little bit darker yellow on this. And I've still got this plate nearby of the black and the white. So I'm going to go a little bit warmer with cadmium yellow, and then I want to reload a little bit with more of the primary yellow as well. I'll give you a visual on this plate. You can see it. All right, so here's my plate. I've got all this black and white to kind of play with here. And then I've got this primary yellow, and then this cadmium yellow. All right, so I'm going to push into a little bit of both of those, and then the white, and then a little bit of that black, and kind of push those all together. All right, so what I need to do now This is going to give me a little bit more of a shadow around the edge of the circle. And again, what I did was a little touch into the cadmium yellow, touch into primary yellow, white, and then black. And then as I come in and around the circle, I want to just kind of lightly tap on the end of my brush here. Light little tap, tap, tap. Just go right towards the canvas. So you get a little bit of a soft texture feel. And then every now and again, I'll lightly tap out in between the petals too. So it gives a light texture that goes out and kind of connects to the rest of the flower. So it's got a little bit of that gray in there, but it also has the warmth of that yellow. Again, just tap straight forward. All right, so really nice texture happening there. So I'm going to bring you a little bit closer to the canvas so you can kind of see that. But again, that's just taking the brush and going straight forward with that tapping motion. And that color mix again is our cadmium yellow, primary yellow, little touch of black, little touch of the white. All right, so I'm going to continue that, tiny little touches. And I still had some of that wet yellow in there. And it's actually creating a nice little blend. So if you do run into that, just kind of go with it because it will softly blend with whatever you had there before. And then I'm going to lightly tap out to between the petals. Sometimes I have to come back in. So you're doing that tapping motion, so it's creating more of a blunt edge on the end of your brush here. So as you tap out in here, you want it to be thinner. And so sometimes you'll have to come back in and kind of squeegee out some of that paint and rotate it back out into a nice fine point before you start tapping again. So you get a smaller area and it won't be so big and bulky as it starts to tap this out. So nice soft effect here. And you can also, if it becomes a little bit too abrupt, you can also tap back in with a little bit of white too. So let me show you what that looks like. A little tiny amount of white tapped back into it. Creates a really nice little soft fade between the two. So that's another little trick too, so you don't have to be too scared of the color becoming too bright or bold over the top of the white. You can always just touch into a little bit of white and rework it into that blend. And that's actually working really well. And if it becomes a little bit too muddy, do a little quick wipe, which mine is. I'm not liking that darkness that's happening there, so I'm going to do a quick little wipe off into my paper towel, grab more white, and then lightly kind of pounce out that white and blend it back in. Soften it up a little bit, lighten it up. Keeping this real tiny in here, a little tiny texture, little taps here. I've got one more little section that needs, yeah, there we go. All right, then up here, again, that little tapping motion, take it all the way around. Really helps soften that little circle up. And then every time I kind of tap out, basically it's just right in between those little petal lines. That's where that's going. And there's lots of ways that you can work back into this too to help soften. So you can do this first, and let me give you another example of what I mean. So I mentioned the white here, where you could tap back in with white to help soften it up, but you could also certainly tap back in with a little bit of yellow and white too in the center, which I think I'm really wanting to do on this guy right here. So I'll take a little bit brush and a little bit of the white and the gold, no, I'm sorry, not gold, primary yellow. Touch into that, and then now I'm going to lightly pounce right over the center of my flower. So white, primary yellow, and lightly pounce over the center again. So see, I just softened that all the way from the inside as well. So just lots of tapping back and forth to get a nice blended look, just back and forth there. And that can be done on all the flowers as well. All right, so again, little tiny circle around the edge here. Again, it's just like this towards your canvas, just tap, tap, tap. And then just lightly go out between those petals into a little tiny line. I'm going to tap back into that with white. So take my little bit brush again and just kind of lightly go into that with the white again. Soft blend in there. In there too, softens that up a little bit. And then in that center, I'm going to go back and use that trick where we went right back into that primary yellow and a little bit of that white and tap right there in the center too. Kind of help soften that up just a little bit. All right, very fun texture. Love it. Okay. And also note, I'm definitely leaving all my black till the very end so that it doesn't eliminate any bright colors that I have. Because sometimes it can create a muddy look, so I don't want that. So just doing a little white accent there. All right, let's see here. I've got a little bit of a white butterfly happening, so we're going to go ahead and paint this white butterfly in. And then we'll outline that with a little bit of gray. And a soft outline, so a teeny amount of black. And the white is still really wet, so this is going to give me a nice soft blend. So I'm really liking that. Teeny tiny amount of black, you don't need that much. Okay. And then same thing up here, I've got a white butterfly up here. So I'll go ahead and paint into that, and then I'll re-emphasize those little lines that will bleed through there. It's a real soft white. There is a little hint of that black in here, so it kind of almost makes it like a really pretty light, soft gray happening in here. And of course, you're welcome to do your butterflies just any color that you would like. All right, now I'm going to come in with that black right around the edge, so this will give me a nice soft blend. So I'm using my little bit brush, a little bit of that black paint, and I'll start with this little body up here at the top, so a little head here. I do like a little parentheses on one side and a little parentheses on the other side, and I just fill in. And then I repeat that same pattern, but I'll do a long one. And I'll get to a nice fine point there on the end. And then I want this line to be thin around the edge, so I'll go ahead and swirl into the black. And then push all the way around. And then this side. So again, this is all really easy because you've got your template in the beginning that provides all these little shapes. All right, now with the butterfly, you want symmetry. So whatever you do on one side, do on the other side. That just makes it really simple for you. So you can start here at the center, and then let's go ahead and do a line. Real thin line here, so I'll do the same thing here on the other side. And I'm using my pinky to help brace a little bit. Just watch, if you do that trick, just watch where you place your pinky. Make sure it's in dry paint. And now I start to make little lines off of that center line. But I just keep working back and forth from side to side. That way I know that whatever I do on one side is on the other side. So it just helps with that balance. The other way that you can work in these tiny little details is with a Sharpie. That's a cheat. But if you do that, just make sure you do it on dry paint. Because a wet paint will kill a Sharpie. It's true. Instantly. It does not care that it's brand new. So then before you know it, you have all these really pretty little lines, and it looks quite beautiful, like a wonderful, beautiful pattern of all those lines that come in over the top of the butterfly. So very pretty on that. The other thing you can do is make little circle patterns. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'm going to do one here. So I use the handle of the brush, and I'm going to dip right into the black paint, and I will just go ahead and press straight forward. So see, that's another little fun pattern that you can do on your butterfly, because a lot of butterflies have like a little circle pattern on them as well. And at the top here, I'll go ahead and just do tiny little lines. Still use a little bit and just kind of twist it out. Nice fine point. And then this butterfly here, it might even be more of a moth. I have a lot more black happening on this one. So I'll take this down to a fine point. Now I will go ahead and I'm going to switch gears here, and I'm going to switch over to some red, get some of that red in here. And even if it touches into a little bit of the black, it'll pull it to kind of a pretty crimson color. So that'll be really pretty as well. So I rinsed off my brush and then I'm going to dry it off. It's just moist now. And then I'm going to push into this really beautiful cadmium red. All right, I'm going to add just a tiny touch of water to this. It depends on what kind of paint you're using. So the paint we sell with our kits is very heavy bodied and thick. So I do usually have to add just a tiny little touch of water to it to help make it a bit more fluid and easier to control on the canvas. Just remember at home, as soon as you add water, you want to make sure you lay it flat so that you don't get any water runs. Just play it safe that way. All right, so I'm going to work into this little section here with some of this really pretty bright cadmium red. And then again on the other side. And we'll follow back through with more black here in a moment. And I want just a little touch of red in here too. All right, sweet. Okay, so now, hi Shannon, hi Billy. Oh, logo mirrored, yes. I know, I don't know how to do that. I keep meaning to figure that out, if I can figure it out. I'm not sure if I can or not. Okay, so, because right now, I don't know what it says up there. Something strange. All right, so I'm going to do a little bit of a white stripe. I don't know how Tipsy Artist sounds backwards. All right, so again, little white stripes here. And here. Okay, and I want, you know what, I'm gonna do that little circle trick again. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the vote of confidence. You think I can figure it out? It's just, I'm not sure if it's an option for me. All right, little bit brush. We're gonna poke into some turquoise. Do that little circle trick where we press straight down here. This is gonna be really, really fun. Use the handle of the brush, dip into the turquoise, press straight forward, and there's my little circle. That is so cool. Love that. And then I can also make tiny little dots here at the bottom. Very nice. All right, now I'm going to come back in with a little bit more black. And then we'll fill this in. Yeah, about the mirror thing, I'm wondering if I can't go into settings. I think I looked one day and I couldn't really find anything, but what I have not done yet is I have not asked the almighty Google. I have not Googled it yet. So there could be solutions out there, or YouTube. Sometimes they'll have fun little solutions on YouTube. Alright, so painting into this with lots of really pretty black here, little details. Little bit brush, just remember to hold it like a pencil. This will give you those fine little details that you need. And then I also want to make sure and add some little lines that come through here at the base. And then firm up that bottom curve. Yay! Love it. All right. So I've got a little bit of detail I need to do around that flower. It's still looking a little bit raw. Also, I'm going to add a little circle right in there. That'll be fun. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of that fun textural thing. I've got some black on my brush. I'm going to keep that going a little bit. And then some of this magenta. Add a little bit of water to make this a little bit more fluid. Still a little bit of that cadmium red in there too. Got a little more water to make it more fluid. And then I'm going to do a little tap trick again. Add some texture over the surface area here. Not enough water. Getting the dry brush. So let's do that again. And then I'll work back into it. I definitely need to wash off my brush. I'm coming in with a lighter color. It's a little bit more white and peachy. And I do not want that black interfering because it will just make it look really muddy and dirty. And I don't like that. A little bit of white, a little bit of orange. So a nice soft blend between those two. I'm going to work back into the center here and do tiny little short strokes all the way around. And then I'll rework this pattern again with a darker shade here in a moment. Alright, so now, more of that magenta. I'm going to pounce right over the top here. So it's picking up some of that magenta and a little bit of that orange. Again, just little taps right over the surface. And so it's creating a nice soft blend. And then I'll pull that out in between each little petal. All right. Now I want more. It got a little bit muddy on me in the center because too many of those lighter warm colors came in. So I need to press back in with a little bit more of my magenta. But I did get some nice blending happening with all that little pouncing effect happening. Then I'm going to do a little bit more of that vibrant magenta, and I'll work right back into the center of my little flower here. So push right into that, and then I'm going to dab right over the center with that. And then barely touch into the black, because I want that shadow happening. So a little bit of that black just barely touches into that. lots of little, just very tiny little taps right over the surface. And then remember to go up a little bit between those two petals. All right. Fun, fun. Still need to come around this guy a little bit more with some of that softer gray here. There are a lot of details in this little painting. So, all right, so a nice little, quick little twist here into my black paint. Nice fine point. And I'll do a nice little light line around those. So again, quick little twist here. Nice fine point. And hello, Robert. I see someone new. So I keep this real light in here. And this is all going to be black all in around here, so I'm not going to worry too much about that black just yet because I'll be working that in here in just a moment. As a matter of fact, I may start to work that in here in just a second, but I'm going to do a few little of these little black accents, real light feathering touches that come around these shapes. So, and to keep it very thin at the top, I just keep remembering to do that little twist right into the paint. Just twist it between my fingertips there. So it's just like making little soft curves. Holding it like a pencil. And then remember to keep twisting into the black paint to give you a nice fine point. Yeah, okay, I'm going to go ahead and start to work into this gal right here. Okay, I'm not sure if this is accurate because I heard about it from a friend, not Wikipedia or the internet, not that that makes it any more accurate. I did hear that the pattern work that you typically see on the top of a Buddha head, you know, that rotation of little tiny circles, I was told that those were snails, and it was to help cool off in the hot sun. So I don't know how that sounds to you this summer. Just, you know, put a bunch of little snails on your head. I don't know. That's just what I heard, or I was getting punked. I don't know. You never know. If anyone out there is an authority on this subject, feel free to enlighten me. And so, I don't know. If I'm completely wrong, it's fine. It wouldn't be the first time. All right, in fact, this whole image here will be a really pretty silhouette. So I'll start with the outer edge first, and then just go ahead and fill that in. And then another good idea too is to keep your small brush for the cut-in work. And then of course we can switch over to a bigger brush to help fill this in too. That'll probably be a little bit easier. Had to get those cute little ears in. Now something else, working at home too, which makes this very easy. As long as your canvas is complete. Oh, y'all back with me? Yes, for those of you just joining us, I did put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and iPhone is ignoring that request. It's just not, it's not listening to me. So I'm probably gonna have to do a phone reset. I've had a few interruptions this class. But that's okay. I'm painting the Buddha, so I'm going to remain calm. Because if I can't remain calm painting this, I never will be able to. Alright, I have to check it out. Sometimes I have to kind of bend down, make sure that I get a glare from the film light, so I want to make sure that I'm seeing this correctly. Alright, very nice, okay. Alright, so now I need to work in and around these little flower petals. And I'll get real close to that moth, but since he's got so much black on him, I want to keep just a little tiny distance so that I keep that shape maintained. And I don't know about y'all, I'm down in the sunroom, that's where I paint, and we have so many flies this year. It is really bizarre. I don't know why it's happening, but that's 2020, isn't it? I don't know why anything is happening. Yes. All right, so continue filling all this in, beautiful black. And to keep it really kind of nice and textural and eliminate any brush strokes that are all going, one certain direction, I like to do a little bit of this, crisscross back and forth. And in this bigger area too, you can also come back in with a larger brush too, and that will eliminate a lot of those brush strokes and give you a much better coat of paint right over the top. And then down in here, I think I'm going to do just a little cut in more of the black, and then I'll probably work in a little bit of turquoise. Alright, so my ending of my brush is becoming a little bit too blunt, so I'm going to go ahead and do a little twist so I can get a nice fine point, get into that little area. I'm gonna go ahead and stop there because this little section is supposed to be a bit more of that really beautiful turquoise color. So rinse that off, give a little bit of bath, dry it off. Now go back into these beautiful colors for the turquoise. So I've got my Viridian and my cyan blue and a little bit of that white. And then I'll just touch right in over the top. So a little bit of that black was so wet, softly blended there. Very pretty, almost gave it a slate quality, which I like. Gonna twist it back out again, get a nice fine point. And I'll add a nice little highlight, just a little bit of white here. All right. Gosh, I could just work on this for days. There's a lot of little details all throughout here. Okay, but I think we're going to call it done for this class. I may continue to work on it, I'm not really sure. Because sometimes I take steps away from paintings and I think, needs more work. But for right now, we definitely have a great start. You never know though, I may come back into it later today. But this has been our beautiful Buddha Flowers of Peace. So yes, quite lovely. And thank y'all so much for joining me today. I had so much fun with y'all. And then we will see y'all, if not tomorrow, I know for sure I have a class scheduled on Thursday this week. I might do a spontaneous tomorrow, so you never know. And I'm trying to switch the times more to the 12:30 time slot too, so I'll get those moved over. But for sure, I'll see y'all Thursday. And I just wish y'all a beautiful day. And if you're interested in painting with me with some of these projects, we've got all kinds of varieties. I almost forgot to mention this. But we have, let me show you all this real quick. You just now join me. So we have fun little templates. Makes it super fun and easy. And if you have all the other supplies, then you can just order the templates. Or you can order our whole kit. Got a little fly friend. But I've got paint, brushes, canvas, it all comes together as a kit with the templates too, so it's just whatever you want to do. But lots of fun options there. But all of that is there for you at tipsyartist.com. So yes, so thank you again so very much for joining me today. And y'all have a beautiful day, and I will see you soon. Mwah.